And last but not least is the option I think that's going to happen for now. Remember, all you have to do with conference realignment, whatever you say, always add for now at the end of it because it's always changing. What is up, everybody? It is Jake with Master of Football, back at it again. Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to be up to date on all things college football, pro football, Madden, EA college football, the draft, anything like that, hit the subscribe button. You will not be disappointed. Also hit the like button as well. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. We're almost at 1,000 subs. Without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, guys, you know I've been going over some realignment stuff recently. I had a live stream the other night. It's pretty cool. Okay, we were talking about some things, talking about how academics is very, very strong, especially at the top end of the academic rankings in terms of school. Not a lot of people are talking about that. My boy Tony Altamore is. I actually just got off the phone with him a while back. But we were talking about this story. And again, you guys know San Diego State and SMU rumored to the Pac-12 would add San Diego, would add Dallas. Pretty easy integration. There's a lot of good things with that would go with that. However, we went over it before. Mike Oresco, you know my boy Mike Oresco. He's super aggressive, the American out there, the Power 6 conference, blah, blah, blah. All that kind of stuff. Really interesting to see what they might do at 13 teams. They added that many teams. They added a bunch of teams to make up for the losses of Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati. Now, we haven't talked about the Mountain West yet. Mountain West is in a weird spot. So Mountain West, 12 football members, 11 full members, potentially losing San Diego State. What do they do from here? So I have a quick little handout here. I want to go over it really quickly because I think that there's four options I see. There's four main options, and some people are going to like some people aren't. I have them ranked into order of I think what's going to happen. But again, right now, all tentative because you guys know conference realignment. The more you try and predict stuff, the more you could kind of get something right, but there's always more to the story because it turns out there's a lot more to these decisions than are they good at football, yes or no. Anyways, let's get into that breakdown right now. So, number 4, and again, I have the top 4 here. Number 4 right now, add New Mexico State and UTEP. For those of you who don't know, UTEP, New Mexico State, all the way over there on that far west end of Texas, both in the Mountain Time Zone. So New Mexico State academically ranked 263rd. UTEP 331 to 440. 331 to 440 is just a fancy way of saying we don't really know. They're just over there. So, anyways, New Mexico State, UTEP. Really cool about this because they have a couple pros with them. Going over the pros and the cons, the pros with them would be a super easy geographical integration. And again, all you have to do is find Albuquerque and find, El Paso, and you'll be able to see kind of how that kind of goes there. They're both really close to each other. El Paso and New Mexico State, UTEP and New Mexico State are really, really close. So again, it would basically be the same flight for both. You fly into UTEP or you fly into El Paso, and then you drive up and go to Las Cruces, which is where New Mexico State is. So pretty easy integration there. UTEP was a former WAC school for 36 years, 1968 to I think 2004, I believe. Anyways, UTEP, former WAC school, played a lot of those teams, has some rivalries out there, also including New Mexico and things like that. So would be an easy integration from that perspective. The Rio Grande rivalry with New Mexico is now a conference game. That is a cool thing that you can say with that because, like I said before, Las Cruces and Albuquerque, I believe it's the I-10 rivalry. I forgot. It's I-something rivalry. But anyways, it's pretty cool the fact that would be a conference game now. The unfortunate thing about that is when you look at the cons of that, adding New Mexico State and UTEP, how many people actually are clamoring to watch the Rio Grande rivalry? I spelled Grand wrong. It's G-A-R-A, G-R-A-N-D-E rivalry. Unfortunately, not super popular teams. New Mexico basketball is solid. New Mexico State's basketball is better than people give it credit for, but nobody's really clamoring for those teams. Would further saturate already broken into regions. Like you said, does El Paso really capture the entire part of Texas? Probably not. I mean, El Paso is almost in its own universe out there as compared to Dallas or Houston or even San Antonio, something like. It's just way out there. So again, I have this one at 4. Not super strong with this one, but again, I think that it's at least something you could look into. I know both of those teams are in Conference USA. You have to buy out their contracts, but Conference USA just lost 1,000 members. As long as you can pay them a couple $1 million, it'd be pretty easy to get both of those teams in. The next one in here goes a little bit more in line with what conference realignment has been recently. So you see, as an example, Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State is getting invited into Conference USA. You're like, Kennesaw State? What the hell is Kennesaw State? Kennesaw State is a university just outside of Atlanta in the Conference USA region. If you add Atlanta, that's a giant market, super easy to get in and out of. It's a giant airport. Kennesaw State integrates it very, very well with that. It's not just football. It's not just football when you're trying to do this integration and things like that. There's got to be, it's got to make things easier, make your lives better. Unfortunately, for New Mexico State and El Paso, saturated the market. El Paso, I'm not sure how easy that is to get in and out of. I will let you know that Portland State, Sacramento State, and Eastern Washington, they're FCS teams right now. They're out there in the Big Sky Conference. They actually would be pretty easy too. Portland is got a big airport. Sacramento's got a big airport. And Spokane is where Eastern Washington's at. It's a decent-sized airport. Again, there might be some tougher trips there. But for the most part, will be also a pretty easy integration geographically. Solid football brands. So as opposed to New Mexico State and UTEP. UTEP has had some bowl wins here and there. But, other than the fact they beat my Boise State Broncos this year, although that was before we fired our coach and got rid of our quarterback. Well, I digress. You see the fact that, Sacramento State, we had a really, really good season this year. Portland State's been up and down, but they can be good. Eastern Washington is a pretty good football brand out there. So you think about this, they could arguably be a better brand than New Mexico State in terms of basketball. Other sports we'll see there. But again, they're solid football brands. It expands the reach into the Northwest, into bigger markets. Portland, Sacramento, Spokane, pretty big markets. El Paso's not small. But again, Sacramento's huge. Portland is pretty big too. Spokane's all right. It's a little bit smaller than like Boise, but it's a decent sized place. And again, you add those three different regions, would not be bad. Would be pretty easy to integrate them in there. And then again, Boise State versus Eastern Washington. If you guys don't know what Eastern Washington's turf looks like, go look it up. It's nicknamed the Inferno. Eastern Washington, red, black, and white. Their turf is not black. Their turf is red. I'm telling you, do not adjust your television set. It would be crazy if they actually had that go back and forth between those two teams. It'd be pretty cool. The cons, though, is it expands a region a fair bit more than you might like for a G5 league. And again, you're going to go expand up northwest. It's pretty far trips for New Mexico now. Now, again, they're at the bottom of that, so it's kind of a weird integration there. Sacramento State would be pretty easy. Portland's pretty high up there. Eastern Washington is too. You want to add multiple teams up there as kind of a pair. So again, it would kind of do that. And also, it doesn't light the world on fire. I'm not saying that Portland State, Sac State, and Eastern Washington would be bad ads. I know people might say, oh, Montana State. It's difficult to get in and out of Montana. Portland, Sacramento, Spokane, a little bit easier. Bigger markets would be an easier integration, I think, than those schools. So, yeah, that's where we are with those schools right there. That's number 3 from my perspective. And controversially here, my number 2 is just add the Dakotas. So when you look at this thing here, so North Dakota State, South Dakota State, North Dakota, and South Dakota, 4 teams. And the reason why I say add 4 is because, and again, we're going to get to the cons here. You're going to see exactly what I mean by that, because there is a definite con with these teams, but there's a lot of pros. We talk about the pros. Basically, it just ends the conversation about who is better between the Mountain West and the AAC. I know that people, if Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati were still in the AAC, it wouldn't be a conversation. Now, I mean, they've got SMU. They might even lose SMU. Basically, they've got Memphis. That's kind of what they have at this point. Memphis is their big brand that they have. Boise State would still be in the Mountain West. And again, that's a hypothetical. We're going to get to that in a second here. Boise State, you've got Fresno State is still solid. You've got North Dakota State. You've got South Dakota State. You've got some big-time football brands. You have 10 FCS national championships since 2011, 9 by NDSU, and 1 by South Dakota State. It also adds great content for new regions to the league. So at the same time that people are like, if you want to add a team, you want to make sure you add something that people actually want to watch. People watch North Dakota State. People watch South Dakota State. North Dakota, South Dakota, not so much as those other teams. Again, still solid places to have. Again, you would want to add 4 just because it's just so dang far. I actually want to show you a map to let you know how far away it actually is. So this right here is a map up here. So again, I have to do this. This is just the FCS programs as of 2022. So Wyoming, as an example, is here. Boise State is here. UNLV is here. UNR is here. Colorado State's here. Air Force is here. And then you could jump all the way out here and look at this. These are in the central time zone. This is absolutely nuts to see this. They actually probably integrate better with the MAC. I mean, Northern Illinois is right here. There's Ball State's over here. And then you have the Ohio schools. They actually probably would integrate with that a little bit better. But again, it's one of those things where if you're going to add one of them, you want to add basically just all of them so you can have a region out here in the east. Like I said, ends the conversation about who's better, lots of national championships, adds great content in new regions to the league. The cons, it is absolutely positively 100% a logistical nightmare to and from. It'd be super hard to integrate in there. So the one thing about, as an example, I said Kennesaw State before. Kennesaw State, despite the fact they might not be a great brand, it's really easy to get in and out of Kennesaw State. They integrate pretty nicely with the league. This is going to be crazy. So you think about Fresno to Fargo. That's going to be, first of all, Hawaii to Fargo. So Honolulu to Fargo is 3,800 miles or 4 time zones away. That's a conference game. There would have to be some sort of rule about, limiting the number of times that you can have those teams out there. It's just, there's so many things that go along with that. Again, it has to make sense. It makes sense for LA to integrate with the Big Ten because LA is a giant enough market that they have direct flights to everywhere. They fly to Minneapolis, they fly to Chicago, they fly to DC and New York and Cleveland and Detroit. It's a pretty easy integration there. Fargo is not, okay? Pierre, South Dakota, I think that's what it is. I don't even know for one of these teams. It would be a super hard integration for these teams. But again, the content would be there. So it would make sense in some way, but it would be a lot to just get there. And last but not least is the option I think that's going to happen for now. Remember, all you have to do with conference realignment, whatever you say, always add for now at the end of it because it's always changing. So stay at 11 football teams, 10 full. Remember, Hawaii is only a football member. They're not a full member. So with that, man, pros. Everyone gets a bigger piece of the pot. You think about that, that's cut up, 12 ways, and now San Diego State leaves. Now it's only cut up 11 ways. Depending upon what happens with the contract, I wouldn't suspect there would be some sort of like, if we use San Diego State, we have to renegotiate. San Diego State might have that in the contract, but I wouldn't necessarily suspect that. There's no worries about integrating new teams, familiarity. Basically, we know what to expect. We're not trying to do anything crazy. That's the pros. It's just standard issue. Gloria Navarez doesn't have to do much. Hey, let's just keep on. That is the pros. The cons, and here's the big thing about conference realignment that you can say every single time. Doing nothing will eventually hurt your league. Again, I'm telling you right now, that's how, ask the Big 12 about that, okay? Ask the Big 12 about sitting around waiting for things to happen, whether or not that hurt them when they were sitting. The Big 12 had 10 teams, they lost 2, and then they went to hell in a handbasket. Sitting around, doing nothing, always hurts you. In the end, that's the reason why the AAC added 6 teams to get up to 14, because now they lost one. They expected to lose one. They thought they were probably going to lose Memphis too. If they would lose Memphis, they'd be down to 12. They'd still have an adequately big league with a good amount of content out there. But I'm telling you, what happens if another league comes for Boise State, Colorado State, UNLV, Fresno State, or others? I already had a perspective before that, what if the AAC, San Diego State leaves, Colorado State, Air Force, they're kind of a little bit worried about the Mountain West. We don't really like what's going on here. They go and they integrate. Again, they're both reasonably fed by Denver, so it's a pretty easy integration there. They feed across the rest of the leagues. It's the rest of the league for the AAC. That's not unheard of, man. Again, I'm saying this right now. I don't expect the Mountain West to do anything. I would not be surprised, though, if that hurts them in the long term. Maybe not in the short term, but in the long term. Again, I would love to actually get some understanding in terms of, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, South Dakota, North Dakota in the Mountain West. It'd actually be really, really cool. Again, I think they actually integrate probably a little bit better with the MAC from a geography perspective. But man, it'd be so cool. Fargo, Boise State visits the Fargo Dome. South Dakota State goes down to, Fresno State, something like that. There's a lot of cool things there. There's 10 national championships since 2011 between those two teams. It'd be crazy for them to join the Mountain West. All right, guys, get in the comments right now. What do you think the Mountain West is going to do? You think Gloria's going to sit at nothing? I think she's probably just going to stay there. Again, I think that they actually wanted to add content. I like that Dakota's idea. I'm also not against the Portland State, Eastern Washington, Sacramento State idea. I think New Mexico State, UTEP, there's the buyout. There's things you have to worry about that. There's probably more red tape along with that. But again, your guys' perspective, get in the comments right now. Let me know what you guys think. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. I appreciate it. That's it for me, guys. I am out.